You ever tell yourself you're fine until one night, you hear your own voice break and you realize you've been lying for years? That was me. I was in the middle of nowhere, headlights off, hands shaking on the steering wheel, my little girl asleep in the back seat, clutching her stuffed rabbit like the world was still safe. The engine ticked from the drive. I could still smell smoke on my jacket, the kind that didn't come from a kitchen fire. I shouldn't have looked back, but I did. The road was empty, black, endless. I wanted to believe no one followed us. But men like him don't let go that easy. I whispered her name. Lena. She stirred, didn't wake. Her cheek was pressed against the window. I used to think she looked like her father, but now I saw she only looked like me. The version of me that still believed people kept promises. I checked my phone again. No signal. I had one number written on a torn receipt in the glove box. I didn't know the man who owned it. I just knew his name carried weight. Dangerous weight. I pulled over near an abandoned diner. The sign still flickered weak red letters that spelled eat. My breath fogged the glass as I tried to calm myself enough to think. I told myself I'd never ask anyone like him for help. But tonight wasn't about pride. It was about her. I called once, twice, no answer. On the third ring, someone picked up. Silence. Then a man's voice. Low, calm, like a warning wrapped in velvet. Who gave you this number? I hesitated. A woman named Carla. She said you help people. He didn't reply. Just the faint click of a lighter. A slow exhale. Where are you? He asked. I told him. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then wait, stay in the car. Don't move. The line went dead. I sat there, heart pounding. My reflection looked like someone else's face. Eyes too wide, lips trembling. Maybe I'd finally lost it, calling a stranger whose name people whispered like a threat. Then I saw headlights. A black car pulled up behind mine, engine purring low. My pulse spiked. I grabbed Lena's stuffed rabbit, held it like it could ward off monsters. A tall man stepped out. Dark coat, clean movements, not rushed. Like he wasn't worried about anything in the world. He stopped in front of my window. Get out, he said. Not loud, just steady. I opened the door slowly, trying to stand straight though my knees felt weak. He studied me with eyes that didn't blink much, gray, like ash. His hair was dark, short, neat. I noticed the scar near his jaw. You're running, he said, not asking. I nodded once. From who? I hesitated. My husband. That word felt dirty on my tongue. He didn't flinch. Where is he? If I knew, I wouldn't be here. He glanced toward the car, saw Lena sleeping. Something flickered behind his calm. Barely there, but real. How old? 4. Hungry? She's always hungry. My voice cracked a little. I hated that. He nodded toward his car. Follow me. Why would I asked. Because whoever you're running from won't stop until he finds you. And if you stay here, he will. I wanted to argue, but my throat closed. He turned, walked back to his car like he knew I'd follow. I did, because I didn't have any other choice. We drove through back roads, forest pressing in from both sides. No words, only headlights and the hum of engines. Lena stirred once, mumbled, Mommy, where are we? I said, somewhere safe, even though I didn't believe it. When we stopped, it was in front of a gated estate. Iron gates, cameras, silence. He typed a code and the gates opened without a sound. I followed him up a long driveway until we reached a mansion that looked more like a fortress. My stomach twisted. He parked, got out, and came to my door. She can sleep inside. You both can. I stared at him. Why are you helping us? He looked at me for a long time before answering. Because Carla asked, and because I don't like men who hurt women. The house was cold, but clean. Marble floors, tall ceilings, not much warmth. He led me to a guest room. You can shower. Clothes are in the drawer. She can sleep here. What's your name? I asked quietly. Damien. I nodded, whispered. Thank you. He turned to leave but stopped at the door. Lock it, just in case you decide you don't trust me. That night I couldn't sleep. The sheets were soft, but my body was still wired from fear. I lay awake, listening to the quiet hum of the house. Lena slept beside me, her small hand curled around my wrist. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. I thought about the night I met my husband, how he used to make me laugh, how I didn't see the warning signs until it was too late. The yelling turned to bruises, the apologies to control. By the time I realized I was a prisoner, I had Lena. and then I had no choice but to survive. At dawn, I walked to the kitchen, trying not to make noise. Damien was already there, sitting at the counter, coffee in hand. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "You always watch your guests like this?" I asked. He smirked faintly. "Only the ones who bring trouble." I crossed my arms. "You don't even know my name." I didn't ask. That silence stretched. Then he said, "But you'll tell me when you're ready." Something in his voice made me pause. He wasn't pressing. He wasn't curious like other men. Just waiting. That was worse somehow. Lena patted into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. "Mommy, is this our new house?" I knelt down. "No, baby. Just for now." Damien crouched to her level, his tone softer. "You like pancakes?" She nodded. "Good," he said, "because that's all I know how to make." He cooked while she talked about her rabbit and cartoons. I watched, confused by the sight of a man like him flipping pancakes like it was the most normal thing in the world. It shouldn't have made me feel safe, but it did, and that scared me. After breakfast, he told me there were people who could find us if my husband started looking. "He'll come for you," Damien said. "Men like that always do. You should be ready." "I've been ready for years," I said quietly. He studied me again, as if deciding whether he believed me. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said. That made something twist in my chest. Pretending was all I'd done for years. 2 days passed in uneasy peace. Lena played in the garden with a stray cat that wandered near the gate. I watched her laugh, sunlight catching her hair, and for a moment I let myself breathe. Then the phone rang. Damien answered in the other room, voice low. When he came back, his expression had changed. "He found you," he said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "He's asking around. Paid someone to trace the number you called from." Panic surged. "We have to go." He shook his head. "If you run, he'll follow. If you stay, I can control what happens." "You think you can control him?" I snapped. He stepped closer. "I can control me. That's enough." I didn't know what that meant, but the way he said it made me believe him. He looked dangerous, not reckless, but deliberate. That night I packed our things anyway. I couldn't risk it. I found Damien in the hallway. "Thank you for everything, but we can't stay." He looked at me, expression unreadable. "You think I'm the danger?" "I don't know what you are." He nodded slowly. "Then you should at least know the truth before you go." He took a folded piece of paper from his pocket, handed it to me. A photo. My husband, smiling, arm around a man I didn't recognize. Damien. I felt my chest tighten. "You knew him. Years ago. Before he became what he is." His jaw clenched. "He owes me a debt. I intend to collect it." The room seemed to spin. "What kind of debt?" "The kind you don't survive if you don't pay." I stared at him, heart pounding. "Why help me then?" "Because," he said quietly, "your daughter wished for a father." My breath caught. He added, "And maybe for once, I want to be someone who grants something instead of taking it away." I didn't move. Couldn't. My fingers trembled around the photo. Outside, I heard a car engine in the distance. Headlights cutting through the trees. Damien's eyes went cold. "He's here," he said. And that's where it all began, the moment I realized safety was just another illusion. You ever wake up and know something's changed before you open your eyes? The air felt different that morning. Heavy, charged, waiting. I heard the sound first. Tires on gravel, doors slamming, voices. Then silence again, like the world was holding its breath. I reached for Lena, but her side of the bed was empty. My heart stopped. I threw the covers back and ran to the hall. She was standing by the stairs, holding her rabbit, looking down at Damien talking to 2 men dressed in black. I pulled her close. "Don't move." Damien looked up. His expression was calm, but his eyes said everything. "Stay quiet." The men were armed. I could see the bulge under their jackets. My hands shook, but I kept my voice steady. "What's happening?" He didn't answer them. Just said to me, "Go upstairs. Lock the door." "No," I whispered. "Tell me." "They're leaving," he said, tone clipped. "They just needed to deliver a message." One of the men smirked. "Boss says he'll take back what's his." I felt my stomach twist. Damien's voice dropped. colder than I'd heard before. "Tell your boss if he steps 1 foot on my property, I'll bury him myself." The man's smirk vanished. They left. The silence afterward was unbearable. Damien turned to me. "You need to pack a bag. You and Lena are staying downstairs tonight." I wanted to argue, but my voice cracked instead. "You said we'd be safe here. You are, as long as you listen." That night we stayed in the library, a room of glass walls and quiet shadows. Damien kept his gun on the table beside him, never once taking his eyes off the windows. I sat with Lena curled up against me, pretending to read her a story, my voice trembling through every word. When she finally slept, I whispered, "You should have let us leave." He didn't look at me. "He would have found you by morning." "He's not stupid." I stared at him. "You know what he did to me." "Yes." "Then why are you protecting him?" He turned his head slowly, met my eyes. "I'm not protecting him. I'm protecting you." There was something in his tone, something I didn't understand until later. I wanted to hate him for being part of that world, for knowing the kind of men who ruin lives and still moving among them like it didn't stain him. But the truth was worse. I didn't hate him. I trusted him, and that terrified me more than anything. Days blurred. The gates stayed locked. Damien made calls, short and sharp, never letting me hear much. He kept his phone close and his distance closer. But when Lena laughed, he looked up. Every single time. She'd draw pictures of him, a tall figure with black hair and kind eyes, and hand them to him like gifts. He'd take them, pretend not to care, but I'd catch him keeping them in a drawer. I didn't mention it. At night, I started to tell him things I hadn't said out loud in years. The first time my husband hit me, the first time I lied to my daughter about why Mommy was crying, the night I finally ran, he never said I'm sorry, never said you deserved better. He just listened, like he'd heard 1,000 confessions before, and knew silence was the only thing that ever helped. One evening, while Lena was asleep upstairs, I asked, "You ever loved anyone?" He didn't answer right away. Then, once. Didn't end well. "What happened?" He looked down at his hands. "She learned who I was. Then she left. You let her?" He gave a half smile. "I let her live." The way he said it sent a chill through me. Still, I stayed. Maybe because part of me wanted to see what was behind all that control. Maybe because he made the world quiet again, even if it was built on danger. A week later, the quiet broke. I was in the garden, watching Lena chase that same stray cat. The gate opened. A woman walked in. Blonde hair, dark glasses, expensive clothes. She moved like she owned the place. Damien came out a moment later, tense. "Inside," he told me under his breath. "Who is she?" I asked. "Someone who shouldn't be here." But I didn't move. The woman smiled, looked straight at me. "So this is the girl," she said. "You have a type." Damien's voice hardened. "This isn't your business." She tilted her head. "It is if she's the reason you're about to break a truce that's lasted 5 years. I froze. "What truce?" The woman looked at me. "With your husband. They were partners once, until you ran. Now your friend here is risking everything for you." I turned to Damien, throat tight. "Tell me she's lying." He didn't. He just said, "Go inside now." But it was too late. I saw the truth in his eyes. My voice trembled. "You worked with him?" "Years ago," he said quietly. "Before I knew what he'd become. Before I knew about you." I felt the world tilt under my feet. "You knew all this time. You knew who he was and you let me stay here. I was trying to protect you. By lying to me? By keeping you alive." I took a step back. "You're no better than him." He didn't move. Just said, "Maybe not. But I'm the only one standing between you and him." I wanted to scream, but Lena came running up, laughing, holding the cat. I swallowed the rage. I couldn't fall apart in front of her. Damien's voice softened when he saw her. "Go pack her things, now. They'll come tonight." That night, he loaded us into the car. No words, just the sound of the engine and Lena's quiet breathing in the back seat. We drove for hours, through city lights and into back roads until he pulled into an old safe house. A cabin tucked behind trees in silence. Inside it smelled of wood and dust. He handed me a phone. "If something happens to me, call this number. Don't stop. Don't wait." "What do you mean if something happens?" He looked at me. Your husband wants leverage. You and the girl. He won't stop until he gets one of you. And you think he'll stop if you die? I think he'll stop if I remind him what fear feels like. He checked the gun at his side. I stepped in front of him. Don't go after him. Not for me. He didn't look away. You don't get to decide what I owe. Damien? He touched my cheek then, gentle but final. You're not the first person I've tried to save, but maybe you'll be the first who survives it. My breath caught. Please stay. He smiled faintly. You'll hate me less if I don't. Then he left. Hours crawled. I sat by the window, clutching Lena's rabbit, waiting for headlights that never came. Every sound made me flinch. The wind, the trees, my own heartbeat. I must have drifted off because I woke to the door creaking open. I jumped up, but it wasn't Damien. It was him, my husband. He looked older, meaner, but his smile was the same. You ran far, baby. I'll give you that. I froze, pulling Lena behind me. Stay back, he laughed. Still got that fire? I missed it. I searched for anything, a weapon, a phone, but he was already stepping closer. Where's your new protector? The great Damien? He said the name like a curse. You really think he could hide you from me? Then the sound, one sharp crack that split the night. He stumbled. A second shot. Damien stepped out of the dark, gun steady, eyes cold. I told you not to come. My husband fell. The silence after was unbearable. I covered Lena's eyes. Damien lowered the gun, breathing hard. Then he turned to me. He's gone. I wanted to scream, cry, something. But all I could do was whisper. You killed him. He would have killed you. He was still her father. He looked away. Then she deserved a better one. Police sirens echoed faintly in the distance. He turned back, voice low. They'll trace this. I'll take the blame. You leave tonight. I shook my head. No, I'm not running again. You have to. What about you? He stepped closer, brushed a strand of hair from my face. I told you once I don't like men who hurt women, but I've done worse things than he ever did. You don't belong in my world. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that maybe the world didn't decide who we were, but he kissed my forehead instead. Soft. Final. Go, he said, before I changed my mind. I took Lena, walked to the car, tears blurring the road. I looked back once. He was standing in the doorway, silhouette framed by moonlight and smoke. That was the last time I saw him alive, or at least that's what I believed. Because 3 months later, when the letter arrived, postmarked with no return address, all it said was, I kept my promise. "3 months. That's how long it took before I could stand in front of a mirror and not see fear looking back. 3 months of nightmares softening into echoes. 3 months of trying to explain to a 4-year-old why we had to start over again. I told Lena we were moving because Mommy got a new job near the ocean. I told her Damien was gone because he had to help other people. Lies. Small, soft ones. The kind you tell so a child doesn't carry your ghosts. We moved into a small apartment 2 streets from the beach. The kind of place where you could hear gulls instead of gunfire. Every morning, Lena would open the balcony door and let the wind in. She'd hold her rabbit out like it was feeling the air, too. She'd say, Mommy, can he see us from heaven? And I'd say, maybe. I never told her I wasn't sure where men like Damien went when they died. Heaven didn't seem built for people like him. But he'd saved us. That had to count for something. At night, after she fell asleep, I'd replay that last moment. The smell of smoke, his voice saying go before I changed my mind. I never told anyone the rest. The police called it self-defense. They didn't know his name, and I didn't give it. The past burned with the house that night, but some things survived the fire. I found that out the day the letter came. It had no return address, only my name in small, deliberate handwriting. Inside was a photo, me and Lena at the park, taken from a distance. My pulse stopped. On the back, 3 words. I kept my promise. No signature. No explanation, just that. I should have been scared. I should have packed again. Instead, I felt something else. A pulse under my skin. Hope, quiet and dangerous. That night I dreamed of him, standing at the edge of the water, coat flapping in the wind. He looked at me like he used to. Steady, unreadable, a man caught between damnation and something softer. When I woke, I whispered, "You're not dead, are you?" 2 weeks later, I got my answer. It was late. Rain against the balcony. I'd just put Lena to bed. The doorbell rang once. My heart jumped into my throat. I grabbed the kitchen knife without thinking, moved slowly toward the door. "Who is it?" Silence. Then a voice. Low. Familiar. "Open the door, Ivy." For a moment, the world went silent. I dropped the knife. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I turned the lock. When I opened the door, he was there. Leaner, bruised but alive. A faint scar down his neck. His eyes the same cold gray that once terrified and steadied me. "Damien?" He nodded once. "You changed your hair. You're supposed to be dead." I was supposed to stay that way. He stepped inside. Rain dripped from his coat. He looked around the small apartment, then at me. "You did it. You got out." My throat tightened. "You sent the letter." "I needed to make sure you were safe before I came back." "Why now?" "Because it's over. For real this time." I wanted to ask what that meant, but then I heard small footsteps. Lena appeared in the doorway holding her rabbit. She blinked at him. "Mommy, who's that?" I froze. Damien crouched to her level, voice softer than I'd ever heard. "Hey, little one." She frowned. "Do I know you?" He smiled faintly. "Not yet." She studied him, then whispered, "You look like my wish." My breath caught. He looked at me, eyes dark. "Your what?" Lena held her rabbit up like a secret. "I wished for a daddy who makes pancakes and doesn't yell." Damien's jaw tightened, then softened. "That's a good wish." After she went back to bed, we stood in silence. I crossed my arms. "You shouldn't have come back." "I had to." "For what?" "Closure? For you." I shook my head. "You don't get to say that after disappearing." "I disappeared so you could live." "I was living before you walked into my life." He stepped closer. "You were surviving. There's a difference." Something in me cracked then. The part that had spent months pretending I didn't miss him. "You killed for me." "I did worse for men who didn't deserve half of what you are. I don't want to be the reason you do bad things. Then don't be the reason I stop." The air between us felt electric. I wanted to hate him, to scream, to push him away, but I couldn't. I just whispered, "I don't know what to do with you. Don't do anything. Just let me stay." He slept on the couch that night. Or maybe he didn't sleep at all. In the morning, Lena found him making pancakes again. She laughed like she used to. And I stood in the doorway, realizing how easily danger can start to look like home when it stops hurting. The days that followed felt fragile. He fixed the balcony door, replaced the old lock, cooked dinner, took out trash. Ordinary things, each one chipped away at the walls I'd built. But part of me stayed ready. Ready for the day the past would knock again. It did, just not how I expected. A black car parked across the street one evening. Damien saw it first. He stood, tension crawling up his shoulders. "Stay inside," he said. "Who is it?" "Someone who still thinks I owe them." I grabbed his arm. "You said it was over. It will be. After this." I wanted to stop him, but Lena ran up with her rabbit and said, "Daddy, are you leaving?" He froze, slowly turned to her. "What did you call me?" She shrugged. "You make pancakes. You fix things. You sound like a daddy." His voice broke just a little. "Yeah, I guess I do." He didn't say goodbye. He just kissed her head, met my eyes, and walked out. The car drove off a minute later. I waited by the window, heart in my throat. 1 hour, 2, nothing. Then headlights again. The car stopped outside. The driver got out, limping. Damien. Blood on his sleeve, but standing. I ran out before I could think. "What happened?" He half smiled. "I ended it." I touched his face, felt the warmth of his skin. "You're bleeding. Not enough to matter." "Everything about you matters," I said before I could stop myself. He looked at me for a long time. Rain starting to fall around us. "You said once you didn't know what to do with me. Do you now?" I nodded slowly. "I do," he exhaled. "Then tell me." I reached for his hand. "Stay," he did. Not because he believed he deserved peace, but because he finally stopped running from it. Months passed. The black car never came back. Lena started kindergarten. She'd draw pictures of the three of us. Me, her, and a tall figure beside us labeled Dad. She'd tape them to the fridge, proud. He'd pretend to roll his eyes, but I'd see the quiet smile after. Sometimes, when the night was too quiet, I'd find him sitting by the balcony, staring at the sea. I'd sit beside him, our shoulders touching. He'd say, "You think people like us ever really get clean?" And I'd answer, "Maybe not, but we can stop bleeding." He'd nod, like that was enough. Maybe it was. The last thing he ever told me before sleep took us that night wasn't a promise or a warning. It was a whisper. I never wanted redemption. I just wanted a reason. I said, "You found one." He pressed his forehead against mine. "No. She found me." Now, years later, I tell this story not because I want you to believe in second chances or broken men who turn good. I tell it because I learned that love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's survival, sharp and bloody, clawing its way toward light. Sometimes the people who save you come dressed like danger. Lena still asks about him. I tell her pieces. The good parts. That he was brave. That he made pancakes. That he listened when I spoke. I don't tell her about the rest. Some stories are too heavy for small hands, but when she blows out her birthday candles each year, she closes her eyes and whispers the same wish. I never ask what it is. I already know. Because I make that same wish too. That somewhere, somehow, the man who once promised to keep us safe finally found the peace he spent his life fighting for. And maybe, in the quiet corners of the world, he still watches the ocean, waiting for us to forgive him. I don't know if forgiveness is something I can give, but I do know this. Every night when I tuck her in and she says, "Good night, Mommy," I whisper it back, and in the space after the words, I always hear him. I kept my promise. If this story reached something quiet inside you, stay a little longer. Tell me which moment stayed with you most. Subscribe so you never miss the next confession whispered in the dark. Share this one with someone who still believes love can rise from ruin. It started with the sound of my own breath, sharp, uneven, scraping the back of my throat like I'd swallowed glass. My shoes slapped against wet pavement, slipping on rain and fear. The street behind the club was empty, except for the echo of footsteps that didn't belong to me. I didn't even know what I'd seen, only that I'd seen too much. The alley was a maze of steel and shadow. I ducked behind a dumpster, the stench of rot and oil thick in the air. The sound of voices cut through the night. Low, deliberate, male. They were close. One of them laughed. That kind of laugh that doesn't need a reason, the kind that means power. I peeked out just enough to see them. 3 men in dark suits, one holding a silver briefcase. The streetlight flickered and the glow caught his face. The one in the center. Still, focused. Everything about him was precise. His stance, his expression, the way he watched others without needing to speak. His presence didn't fill the space. It consumed it, then his eyes lifted, right to me. My stomach dropped. I stumbled backward, hit a metal bin. The noise cracked through the silence like a gunshot. All 3 turned toward me. The briefcase snapped shut. Someone's here. I ran. The heels of my boots pounded the concrete, but the steps behind me were faster. I turned a corner and hit a dead end. My palms pressed against brick. No escape. My body trembled as I spun around. And there he was. Alone now? The other 2 nowhere in sight. He didn't run. He walked. The kind of walk that says he's never had to chase anything in his life. Every movement was control. Every step a decision. I tried to speak. I didn't stop. The word cut through me. His voice was deep, calm, with something colder under it. My breath hitched. I stared at him, trying to memorize every detail because instinct told me this was a face you didn't forget. Sharp jaw, dark hair slicked back, eyes that looked black until the light hit them and you realized they weren't. They were gray, metallic, unreadable. He stopped a few feet away. The air between us felt alive. What did you see? Nothing. I swear You're lying. He didn't sound angry. Just certain I just heard something. I didn't see faces. He tilted his head. You saw mine. Silence. My throat closed. He took another step and I could smell him. Leather, smoke, and something expensive I couldn't name. His voice dropped lower. You shouldn't be here. I didn't mean to. I was leaving work. The street was blocked. You picked the wrong shortcut. His hand lifted slowly, brushing a raindrop from my cheek. I flinched, but he didn't move away. His fingers lingered. My skin burned under his touch. the warmth of his hand so at odds with the coldness in his eyes. "What are you going to do?" I whispered. He studied me for a long moment. Then he said, "That depends." "On what?" "On whether I believe you." He stepped closer. The wall pressed against my back again, and he leaned in, his mouth near my ear. "Tell me your name." My pulse jumped. "Why?" "So I know what to remember," I hesitated. "Evelyn." He repeated it quietly, tasting it. "Evelyn." The sound of it in his voice sent something electric through me. "I don't hurt people without reason," he said. "But I don't let them walk away either." "Please," I said. "I won't tell anyone." His hand moved from my cheek to my jaw, holding it just firm enough that I couldn't look away. His eyes searched mine like he was trying to read something behind them. "You will tell someone," he said finally. "Not with words. With your face. With your fear. People notice that." "I can hide it," I said. "I can forget this." He smiled faintly. "No one forgets me." The words were a warning and a promise. He let go, took a small step back, watching me like he was deciding my fate. Then he reached into his coat, and for a second my heart stopped. But it wasn't a gun he pulled out, it was a card. Plain black, embossed with nothing but a single gold symbol. He slid it into my coat pocket. "If you ever tell anyone," he said softly, "you'll need that before they find you." "What is it?" "Insurance." He turned to leave, and something inside me broke the silence. "Who are you?" He didn't stop walking. "The one you'll remember." And then he was gone. I stood there shaking, the night swallowing the sound of his footsteps. My heart still hadn't caught up. My fingers trembled as I pulled the card from my pocket. No name, just the symbol. 2 letters intertwined in gold. DR. When I finally made it home, I locked every door and window, checked them twice, then sat on the floor until the city went quiet again. My hand still smelled like him. The next morning, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it, until I found the note, folded neatly on my kitchen table. I didn't remember leaving it there. It said one line. "You should have told me your name, Evelyn." My blood ran cold. I turned, scanning the room, the silence so heavy it felt alive. The windows were locked. The door was bolted. But someone had been here. Someone had stood where I was standing, close enough to write that note, close enough to know where I lived. I picked up the paper with shaking hands. His handwriting was sharp, deliberate, the same control I'd seen in his eyes. He hadn't forgotten me. He'd found me. The day blurred after that. Every sound felt like him watching. Every stranger's face held his shadow. I tried to throw away the card, but my hand wouldn't move. It felt like touching it would bind me deeper, but not touching it meant fear without preparation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in the alley. The way he said my name, the heat of his breath against my ear, the quiet certainty in his tone. I told myself it was fear, not fascination. But fear doesn't make your skin ache to be touched again. Something inside me shifted that night. Like the world had tilted, and I couldn't find balance again. I started noticing him in everything. The glint of a black car parked too long on my street, the hum of my phone lighting up with no number showing, the scent of smoke on my jacket when I hadn't gone near any fire. He was everywhere and nowhere, and I started to realize something even worse than being hunted. I didn't want it to stop. Because underneath the fear, something darker was forming, a pulse that matched his, a curiosity that tasted like surrender. He had said, "You'll remember me." And he was right. I couldn't stop. I tried to live like nothing happened. Pretend the note never existed. Pretend Dominic Russo wasn't a name that kept my pulse hostage every night. But denial is fragile. One memory cracks it, and everything spills out. A week passed. I went back to work at the cafe, where the only noise was the hiss of milk steamers and the sound of customers tapping their phones. Safe, ordinary, forgettable. That was the goal. Then the bell above the door rang. He walked. In every cell in my body recognized him before my mind did. The dark suit, the slow, quiet stride, the kind of composure that didn't fit the world outside. He shouldn't have belonged here, under warm lights and cheap jazz. But the air changed when he stepped inside. Conversations died mid-sentence. I froze behind the counter. He stopped in front of me, eyes locked on mine. Calm, certain, commanding. "Evelyn," he said, my name in his mouth again. It didn't sound like a greeting. It sounded like ownership. My throat went dry. "You can't be here. I can be wherever I want." He didn't blink, didn't glance away. The others in the cafe shifted uneasily, like instinct told them to keep distance. He slipped a $100 bill onto the counter, untouched. "Black coffee." I poured it without breathing. When I handed it to him, our fingers brushed. Heat flashed up my arm. He didn't move his hand away. His gaze stayed fixed on me. "You look tired," he said. "You don't get to ask that." His mouth curved. "You think you can draw a line between us now? You crossed it the moment you looked back that night. Is that why you followed me?" He leaned forward, elbows resting on the counter. "You make it sound like a chase. I prefer to call it proximity. I wanted to tell him to leave. I wanted to mean it, but my pulse betrayed me." He stayed until closing time. Never touched the coffee, just watched me. Every movement, every glance. When I finally stepped outside, the street was empty, or so I thought. His car idled across the road, black, sleek, tinted. The passenger window rolled down. "Get in." "No," he smiled faintly. "You still think this is a request?" The way he said it, low, deliberate, made something inside me unravel. I didn't run. I walked toward him. The door opened before I could reach for it. The car smelled like smoke and rain. He drove in silence, the city fading behind us. I didn't ask where we were going. I didn't need to. The stillness between us was its own language. He stopped at a house on the edge of the city. No lights around, just the hum of crickets and the metallic tick of the engine cooling. He stepped out first. I followed. My shoes sank into gravel. "Why am I here?" He turned, expression unreadable. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." "That's not a reason. It's the only one that matters." He moved closer, stopping inches from me. His voice softened. "You should have forgotten me. I gave you every chance, but you didn't." I tried to sound steady. "You made it impossible." He exhaled slowly as if I'd proven his point. "Exactly." Inside the house, the air smelled faintly of smoke and something old, like dust and memory. Minimal furniture, no photos, just empty space and silence. He poured a drink and handed it to me. I didn't take it. He didn't insist. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "That I'm playing with you. That this is control. Maybe it is. Then stop." He stepped closer. "If I stop, you'll leave. That's the point." His voice dropped. "It's not mine." The tension between us thickened, built from everything unsaid. He reached for my hand, tracing a finger along my wrist. "Do you know what fear and want have in common?" I didn't answer. "They both make you forget who you are." He was right. Every time he looked at me, I couldn't remember who I was before him. The version of me that believed safety mattered. "You can't fix what you break," I said. He smiled faintly. "You're assuming I want to fix it." His fingers lifted my chin. The space between us vanished. The first kiss wasn't gentle. It was collision, control, surrender. My breath caught against his mouth. He didn't force it. He didn't ask. It just happened, inevitable as gravity. When he pulled back, his voice was quiet. "You should hate me." "Maybe I do," he nodded. "But you're still here." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of his room while he spoke to someone on the phone in another language. The tone was low, measured, but every syllable carried danger. When he hung up, he found me watching him. "You shouldn't hear this side of me," he said. "I already have." He came closer, crouched down, his face inches from mine. "Then don't pretend you don't understand it." The next morning, he drove me home. No words, just silence and the echo of everything that happened between us. But normal life was gone. Every place I went, I felt his eyes on me. Every night, my phone buzzed with messages from an unlisted number. "Sleep. Lock your door." Sometimes you left your window open. He wasn't just watching. He was inside every choice I made. A week later, I followed the pull instead of resisting it. I went to him. His men let me through without a word. His office was dimly lit, quiet, with walls lined in books and a single window overlooking the city. He looked up from his desk, and for a moment, The mask slipped. He looked tired. Human. "You came back," he said. "I never really left." He stood, walked to me, stopped just close enough that I could feel his breath. "Say what you want from me." "I don't know," I said. "Yes, you do." I met his eyes. "I want to understand you," he laughed softly. "That's the most dangerous thing you could want." We didn't talk after that. Words weren't needed. His hand brushed the back of my neck, his touch both careful and commanding. He kissed me again. Slower this time, like he wanted to memorize how it felt. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "You think I don't want to change, but you don't understand what it costs. Then show me." His eyes darkened. "Be careful what you ask for." The next day, I saw the first crack in his world. A file left open on his desk while he took a call. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity had already replaced fear. My name wasn't in it. My father's was. The paper listed dates, transactions, something coded, then a single word, eliminated. My pulse stopped. I stared until the letters blurred. My father had vanished years ago. No answers, no justice. Just gone. The phone call ended. I barely had time to close the file before I heard his footsteps behind me. Dominic's voice was quiet. "You were never supposed to see that." My throat tightened. "What is this?" He didn't move. "A mistake. You killed him." His silence confirmed it. "Say it," I whispered. He finally met my eyes. Yes, the room spun. The world tilted off its axis. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my chest. He took a step closer. "It wasn't personal. It was my father." His jaw clenched. "He tried to destroy everything I built. I didn't know he was yours." I shook my head. "You always know." His expression hardened. "You wanted to understand me. This is who I am." I backed away, heart breaking in rhythm with my breathing. "Then you were right. I should have forgotten you." He watched me walk toward the door. His voice followed, calm but heavy. "You can't." I stopped. "Watch me." He didn't answer. Just stared. Silent. Still. A man made of stone. I left the house without looking back. When I reached the street, my phone vibrated. A single message: "Don't run. It's not over." I looked up and saw his car waiting at the corner, headlights off, engine quiet, his silhouette visible behind the glass. The message haunted me through the night. "Don't run. It's not over." The words burned on the screen long after I threw the phone across the room. I should have changed my number, left the city, vanished, but I didn't. Because deep down I knew he was right. It wasn't over. I couldn't run from something that had already rewritten me. Days blurred. I kept my head down, went to work, came home before dark, locked the doors twice. But the air around me carried him. The faint trace of his cologne in places he'd never been. The hum of a black car idling too long near the corner. My mind knew fear. My body called it recognition. Then came the knock. 3 slow, steady taps. I froze. When I opened the door, Dominic stood there. No suit this time. No armor of power. Just dark jeans, a black shirt, a face carved in exhaustion. The man looked human for once, and somehow that was worse. "I told you not to come back," I said. He stepped inside anyway, closing the door behind him. "You saw what I never wanted you to see. You killed my father," he nodded. No denial, no justification. Just the truth sitting between us like blood on the floor. "You don't get to show up here like it's nothing." "It isn't nothing," he said quietly. "It's everything." The silence stretched until it felt like gravity itself. I turned away, but he moved closer. "You deserve the truth," he said. "No," I snapped. "I deserved a father. You took that from me." His voice cracked, barely. "He wasn't who you think he was." I turned on him. "Don't rewrite him to make yourself cleaner." He met my eyes, gray and cold and breaking. He tried to have me killed. He was working with people who wanted to burn everything down. I warned him to walk away. He didn't. I wanted to hate him, but hate requires distance. I was too close. His pain looked too much like my own. "So you call it survival," I said. "I call it consequence." I shook my head. "You don't get to decide that for everyone." He exhaled, stepped back, eyes flicking toward the window. Outside, the city lights bled into the glass. You think I don't know what I am? I think you hide behind what you are. He smiled bitterly. Maybe, but you saw through it. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because even now, even knowing everything, my pulse betrayed me. His presence still filled the room like oxygen. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small key, placed it on the table. If you want to leave this behind, take it. It's an address. A storage unit. Inside is every file, every name, every secret. Proof of what I've done. You can destroy me with it. Why are you giving this to me? Because I'm done pretending I can change. His voice was quiet, stripped bare. I stared at the key. What happens if I walk away? Then I disappear. And if I don't? Then you'll understand me. And I don't know which is worse. He started toward the door, but something inside me snapped. Wait. He stopped, turned. You don't get to walk out and leave me with the ashes. He looked at me like he'd been waiting for that. Then don't stay behind. The distance between us collapsed again. I crossed the room before I could think, my hands pressed against his chest, against the steady beat under skin that had done too much damage. I should hate you, I whispered. I know. But I can't. His hand came up, fingers threading through my hair, pulling me closer until there was no space left. That's what terrifies me, he said. The kiss wasn't forgiveness. It was ruin. Every breath burned. Every second was an admission of everything we couldn't undo. He lifted me, pressed me against the wall. The weight of him, the heat, the edge between violence and surrender. It all blurred. When he broke the kiss, his forehead rested against mine. I told you once you'd remember me. I wish I could forget. He smiled faintly. No, you don't. The sirens came before dawn. I woke to the sound, heart pounding. Dominic was already up, pulling on his jacket, checking the gun he'd laid on the table hours before. Outside, flashing lights painted the window red and blue. Your men? I asked. Gone, he said. They took the fall before it reached me. It was only a matter of time. He looked calm. Too calm. The kind of stillness that means resignation, not peace. You knew this was coming. He nodded. You can't live this long in my world and not expect the walls to close in. I stood. Then run. He shook his head. Running is for people who still believe they can start over. I moved toward him, grabbed his arm. You can. He looked at me then, really looked, and something broke across his face. If I run, you'll never stop looking for me. You think that's mercy. It's not. His voice softened. Take the key, Evelyn, walk away. You don't owe me your ruin. I could barely breathe. You don't get to decide what I owe. He smiled, small, broken. You sound like me. When the pounding started at the door, he kissed me once, fast and desperate. Remember me like this, he whispered. Before I could speak, he opened the door and stepped into the light. The police swarmed in, shouting commands I didn't hear. He didn't fight. He dropped the gun, raised his hands, eyes still on me as they pulled him away. The world went quiet after that. He was gone by sunrise. The papers said Dominic Russo was taken into federal custody. No bail, no deals. Rumors said he confessed to everything. Every name, every crime, every death. They called it redemption. I called it surrender. Weeks passed before I used the key. The storage unit smelled like dust and oil. Inside were boxes stacked neatly, each labeled with dates and names. The final box was mine. Inside, a single photo. Me in the alley that first night, frozen in motion, light catching my face. Beneath it, a note. You were the only thing I ever wanted that didn't belong to me. You made me remember I was still human. My hands shook. I folded the note back and locked the unit behind me. The city felt different after that. Quieter. Colder. But I wasn't the same girl who'd run through the rain and begged a stranger not to hurt her. The fear had burned out. What replaced it wasn't peace. It was clarity. He hadn't saved me. He hadn't destroyed me either. He'd shown me what I was capable of. How far I could bend before I broke. I walked home under the fading lights, the dawn turning the buildings gold. Somewhere behind steel walls, Dominic was serving his sentence. Maybe he'd thought of me. Maybe he didn't. It didn't matter. I'd kept my promise once, to never love a criminal. I failed. But in the failure, I found something truer. I learned that love isn't rescue. It's revelation. He didn't save me. He unmade me. And in the ruin, I learned who I was. If this story pulled you in, tell me which moment hit hardest. Comment your favorite scene, where you're watching from, and what you'd do if you were her. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with someone who loves dark romance stories.